Many people out there have been speculating on that Meghan Markle has lied about her age. Is she actually older?
What if the biggest royal illusion of the decade didn't come from the palace, but from Meghan Markle herself? Because for years, one woman, Samantha Markle, kept whispering a truth the world refused to hear.
I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come.
For a long time, the public accepted one clear narrative. Meghan Markle was said to have been born on August 4, 1981. That date appeared everywhere, official bios, media statements, and royal write-ups, repeated so consistently that it became unquestioned truth. No one felt the need to challenge it. Until Samantha Markle did. She raised doubts that few had considered before, and in doing so, may have uncovered one of the most intriguing royal mysteries in recent history. Because if Meghan's true age differs from what the public was told, if it was discreetly altered long before she ever crossed paths with Prince Harry, then the entire sequence of events begins to change. Career timelines, personal milestones, and even the narrative around motherhood itself no longer line up the same way.
To testify for Samantha against Meghan, is that correct?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I love both my daughters. I'm not happy with what one of my daughters is doing, and I don't know what caused her to do this. We've had this conversation before. She's telling lies.
For Thomas Markle, the unraveling didn't come in a single dramatic collapse. It unfolded gradually, in a way that felt far more disturbing. Small details began to feel off. Dates didn't align. The ages attached to milestones, graduation years, career steps, key appearances, didn't match the daughter he remembered raising. These weren't vague memories or emotional guesses. They were fixed moments, the kind parents remember instinctively. At first, it was merely odd. Then it became repetitive. Eventually, it became impossible to dismiss. Thomas wasn't setting out to accuse anyone or expose a secret. He was trying to reconcile two versions of the same life. The more interviews he heard and the more official biographies he read, the further those timelines drifted from what he knew. This is where uncertainty enters the narrative, not explosively, but decisively. Because numbers don't debate. They either align or they don't. And somewhere between memory and arithmetic, Thomas reached a quiet but powerful realization: if the starting date was incorrect, then every event built on it would be misaligned by years. That realization didn't point fingers. It simply opened a door. And behind that door sat a forgotten printed page from 1997. In March of that year, teenagers across the United States flipped through 17 magazine. It was glossy, mainstream, and entirely unremarkable. No one imagined it would matter decades later. Yet inside that issue, on page 90, appeared a simple list of names. No headlines. No controversy. Just basic information. One entry read, Meghan Markle, age 21, Los Angeles. At first glance, it seems insignificant. Another hopeful name among many. But once the math is done, the story shifts sharply. If Meghan Markle were born on August 4, 1981, the date repeated in every official account, she would have been 15 years old in March 1997, not 21. That isn't a minor error or a rounding mistake. It's a 6-year difference. A gap large enough to reshape an entire life timeline. This wasn't a claim made online years later or a memory retold with hindsight. It was printed ink. Distributed, archived, and preserved long before royal connections, public relations teams, or image management mattered. That page still exists. The number is still there. And once it's seen, a question emerges that no official biography answers. Why was Meghan Markle listed as 21 years old in 1997? Placed side by side, the contradiction becomes unavoidable. One version is familiar and endlessly repeated: Meghan Markle, born August 4, 1981, Los Angeles, California, 44 years old in 2025. This is the accepted narrative, reinforced and defended everywhere. But another version exists just as clearly. If the magazine listing was accurate, then her birth year shifts to 1975 or 1976, placing her not in her mid-40s today, but closer to 50. That difference is not trivial. 6 years changes everything. It reframes graduation timelines, career development, and how long someone pursued opportunities in an industry obsessed with youth. It alters how ambition itself is perceived. Which leads to the area where the story becomes most fragile, the pregnancies. Up to this point, the discussion lives in documents and dates, things that can be edited, reframed, or managed. But medicine operates differently. Hospitals follow protocols, not narratives. That's why the account of Archie's birth matters so deeply. Publicly, the story was presented as calm and almost cinematic, soft lighting, birthing balls, a peaceful atmosphere. A smooth delivery, rapid recovery, and a return home within hours. It sounded flawless. But for anyone familiar with childbirth, especially within private hospitals governed by strict medical rules, the details raised immediate concerns. Behind soothing language lies a rigid system designed for safety, not convenience. When the story is reduced to its most basic elements, time and movement, it begins to strain. According to the public account, Meghan received 2 epidurals during labor, recovered quickly, and returned to Frogmore Cottage within roughly 2 hours. This is where the narrative breaks down mechanically, not emotionally. Epidurals are not instant procedures. They require monitoring. Patients cannot simply stand up and leave. Sensation must return. Vital signs must stabilize. Observation is mandatory. Add to that the geography. The drive from the Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage alone can take close to an hour. That leaves less than an hour for delivery, recovery, observation, and discharge. In real medical practice, that window does not exist. Labor, anesthesia recovery, and hospital protocol cannot be compressed into minutes. Bodies don't operate on press schedules. Clocks don't bend. This is where age quietly re-enters the story, not as speculation, but as classification. In medicine, pregnancies in women over 35 are categorized as geriatric. The term is clinical, not judgmental. It signals increased risk and requires stricter monitoring and longer observation. According to accounts, this pregnancy fell into that category alone, which fundamentally changes how it would have been handled. High-risk pregnancies are not treated casually. They do not allow rapid discharge or flexible timelines. And then there is the mention of preeclampsia, one of the most serious complications in pregnancy. Its management involves medication, blood pressure control, and constant supervision. Not early departures. Not optional observation. If preeclampsia were present, leaving the hospital quickly would not have been a choice. It would have been medically impossible. This is the moment when the disconnect becomes undeniable. The public version of events does not align with medical reality at any stage. And when medicine conflicts with a narrative, medicine doesn't lose. By this point, a pattern emerges. A father recalls a different timeline. A sister echoes the same concerns consistently. A magazine prints an age that contradicts official records. 2 possible birth years coexist. A birth story collapses under basic medical scrutiny. Each detail alone could be dismissed. Together, they suggest something heavier. Not vanity, but control. The careful shaping of perception, so thoroughly managed that no one would think to examine the foundation beneath it. But foundations built in pencil eventually reveal their marks. Ink endures. Records persist. Bodies don't follow scripts. Once those faint lines beneath the story become visible, the shifted dates, the softened details, they cannot be unseen. The image may remain standing, but it no longer feels solid. And that is where the story truly ends. Not with an accusation or a verdict, but with a quiet realization. Stories rewritten for perfection don't vanish. They wait. And when someone finally angles the page toward the light, the ink always tells its own story.